Big Dash knows what?
Hello and welcome to Big Dash Knows. Big Dash knows what? New York Giants football. Let's go. Today's video is the first edition mailbag. Big Dash Knows has a mailbag. And listen, I want to say thank you to everybody that submitted a question. Shout out to y'all. I enjoyed the questions. I'm going to answer all of the questions that I have right now. I should say, if you add a question after I recorded this video, I do apologize. Please let me know in the comments down below if your question did not get answered, and I'll make sure that I get to that. But it was great to see some of the names of the people that submitted those questions. Some guys been following since the beginning. I appreciate that. But without further ado, let's get into some of these questions. So the first question comes from, and it's at Wheels84SS. I'm assuming Wheels84SS. He says, could you see the Giants bringing in another interior linebacker and trying to use Carter Coughlin as an edge again, which is his more natural skill set? We know that from Minnesota. That's fact. Or do you think we scan the waiver wire for more edge depth? So that's a good question. So Carter Coughlin is already on the bubble for me, right? And I think last year we kept both Cam Brown and Carter Coughlin. I think in my prediction video I had us actually keeping both still. But with the recent injury, and I don't know if he practiced today, of Cam Brown, I do think that I will keep Carter Coughlin over Cam Brown just because of that added in the pinch. If you need him to play defense, I think you're going to get more out of Carter Coughlin. Now, as far as moving him to edge, I don't think that happens. Here's the thing, though. We remember when he was a rookie, his rookie season. I remember Carter Coughlin chasing down Russell Wilson and getting that sack in that big one we had over Seattle. So he can do it. Will they do that? Not sure. There's a lot of guys that have I guess, show a lot more promise than Carter Coughlin. But for me, I'm still a fan of Carter Coughlin, still a fan. But I think that the New York Giants, if they are looking for edge depth, they probably look somewhere else and don't move Carter Coughlin back to the edge spot. But that's a great question. So the next question comes from New Jersey Groyper, 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 New Jersey Groyper. It says, how do you feel about the Giants starting 2 rookie corners this season? If you would have asked me a month ago, I would have said no way possible. And then you see the training camp that Hawkins had put together, and you hear how Wink Martindale is talking about him. So for me, how do I feel about it? I'm excited. There's a lot of unknowns still. I'm hoping that these guys get some snaps against the Jets in that preseason game. But now I'm excited to see it, man. So that's how I'm feeling. I'm feeling excited about, and the only reason why I feel excited because I think Hawkins can really be somebody. Deontay Banks, we picked him up first round, so we already have a certain amount of expectations for him. He was going to be the starter no matter what, in a lot of people's opinion. But now that you have this guy coming out of the 6th round, and possibly being a starter on the team, I'm excited for that. And even though we might see some bumps and bruises, just a guy that can come from where he came from and actually be in a room as a starter, that's fantastic. And shout out to the scouting department for that. All right, so let's go to the next question. This next question comes from Shadowfex100. Shadowfex100, what's going on? All right, let's see the profile picture. I think I know what's going on. All right, so so I put out a video right when the schedule release dropped, and I had the New York Giants, going 10-7. All right. I'm even more confident now, but I'm probably going to still stick with that 10-7 record. 11-6 is very, very tempting. Shout out to Big Lou from G Nation Sports. 11-6, Mr. 11-6. He's the originator of that, Big Blue crew. So I'm still going to stick with my 10-7, but I'm getting closer and closer to that 11-6. I think it's very, very possible. Next question. Next question comes from one of my very first day one subscribers. I don't know how the man found me. He is all over the place when it comes to New York Giants content creators. That's my man Tudo, man. So shout out to Tudo. Tudo didn't even give me a question, but I highlighted what he said. He just said, Big Boss Dash knows all about Giants and beyond. Massive salutes, mate. Tudo, day one. I appreciate the love and support, man. I appreciate the love and support more than you know. Even some of the comments that you have, man, to keep pushing things like that, especially early on when I started this YouTube journey. Thank you very much, Tudo, man. Shout out to Tudo. Tudo, man, you should have a channel, man. You're the #1 Giants content subscriber. Absolutely. And you're all over the place. Every time there's a Giants content creator making a video, posting something, Tudo was right there, man. I don't know how you do it, but salutes to Tudo. All right, so the next question is coming from James Hollister 8294. James, what's going on, man? You're very, very active in the comments, man. Salute to you. Salute to you. All right, it says the Bills had first round, 6th-round cornerbacks last year. Last year. Giants got it this year. Okay, so you're saying that last year the Bills had a 6th rounder and a 1st rounder last year that were cornerbacks. Okay. And now the New York Giants got it this year. Is there a scouting change between the teams this season? Okay, I will say this. So obviously when Joe Schoen got hired last year in that first draft class, he didn't have all of his staff together. He kept a lot of people from the other regime. This season, or this offseason, he was able to rebuild his whole scouting department. I don't know how many changes he had in total, but it was more his staff and their recommendations. So that could be something. Maybe he did grab some guys from the Buffalo Bills. I don't know for sure because I don't know all the scouts, but that is something that's very, very possible. That's a good question. That's a good question. Didn't even think about that. All right, so the next question comes from Aiden Moore 26. It says, who do you think will be the biggest surprise on this year's team? Wow. Can you count Trey Hawkins as a surprise? I don't think so. You're looking at the draft picks. Can't count those guys. Maybe. You know what? I think I'll say two things. If we're talking about the rookie class as a surprise, and I'll give another example. I think one of the bigger surprises is going to be Jordan Riley. We see what he's doing now. I think he's going to be very, very important to the rotation. So I can see him being a good surprise, for the team. Let's think about some veterans on the team. I know there's a lot of anticipation for Darren Waller. There's a lot of anticipation for Jalen Hyatt, Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley. I'm going to put the surprise player being Daniel Bellinger. Like, he seems to be the forgot about guy in some cases. I think Daniel Bellinger is going to benefit off of having all of these new weapons. He's still going to be used as a security blanket. And even though I think his possessions or his receptions will go down, I think the quality of his receptions, first downs, touchdowns, will probably go up in comparison to last year. So I'm gonna say Daniel Bellinger is going to be my surprise player this year. Okay, let's get into this next question. All right, so we got James Hollister 8294 again. He says, who do the opposing teams DB line up against? Will Waller always be matched up with the best cornerback on every team? So in some cases, the cornerback can't do that. They depending on how Waller is being used, if he's in line, if he's outside, maybe. But you just have to think about your matchup. Now, if that #1 cornerback is a more physical cornerback, then you might see them lined up against Waller. But if it's your regular, everyday size cornerback, then it's going to be a mismatch with whoever Waller gets put on. But I can see more of the athletic safety trying to guard Waller. Again, this is all depending on the type of lineup that Coughlin comes out with. Sometimes it's just the assignment, and that's what you're going to look for, those mismatches to put Waller one-on-one against a cornerback. And if that's the case, you're just playing jump ball at that point in time. Throw him the alley-oop, let him dunk it home for a touchdown. That's what I think about that question. But that's another good question, James. All right, so the next question comes from Kenny G 5256. Kenny G, if that's your real name, I already know you probably caught a couple of jokes for being named Kenny G, obviously for Kenny G, or you might be too young to even know what that's a reference to. But Kenny G 5256 asked the question. He said, how many players do you expect the Giants to claim off waivers, and what position? I think the max is probably 2 or 3 players off of the waiver wire. Again, you have an entirely new scheme. You're trying to bring these guys along. When you grab somebody off of the waivers, you're taking somebody off of your active 53, and they have to be put strictly on the team, unless you're trying to grab somebody off waivers and put them on the practice squad. That's a little bit different. I say no more than 2 or 3 people that you're going to add off of the waiver wire to this team. And I think it's going to probably be offensive line, interior offensive line, unless there's a steady tackle out there that you think could be the swing tackle, and then maybe the edge. Maybe the edge. Possibly linebacker too, but that's going to be it. I'll say that no more than 2 or 3 at max. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't take any, but I do expect to have at least 1 or 2 waiver claims. But again, interior lineman, linebacker, edge, probably the most reasonable position to go with in that case. All right, thank you, Kenny G, for that. Okay, the next question is coming from Percival Glasgow, 9781. And if that's your real name, that is dope. Percival Glasgow. You should be a boxer. That sounds like a boxer. That sounds like an athlete altogether. If you got a name like that, you probably went D1 and played sports. Percival Glasgow is a heck of a name. So he says, is the Pinnock injury a little concerning? So here's a question. One thing about the New York Giants, they don't give out a lot of information. So I don't know exactly what the injury is with Pinnock. I'm hoping that it's not anything serious. But I can't be concerned yet because I don't know what's going on. Now, if we keep hearing news about him not practicing and things like that, then you're going to start worrying about what's going on. But if you see the guy, on the sideline or either playing in the last preseason game, then this guy is all right because he might get some snaps. So even though he's projected to be a starter, he might play a little bit if he's healthy. So we'll see what happens with that. So that'll be my answer for that one. All right, next question is from Danny G5836. He said, how come no one is picking the Giants in a weak NFC to go deep in the playoffs? You know why? Danny, because they're haters. They're haters and they don't know any better. That's what I'm saying. As a New York Giants fan, like me and you are, and everybody that's submitting these questions are tuned in, we have a finger on the pulse of this New York Giants team. We know all the ins and outs. We know who we added. We're paying attention to these practices. We're looking at the preseason games. We're seeing everything that's going on. So if the mainstream media and people like that are not showing us the respect that they should be giving us yet, that is fine because you and I know what's going on. And as a New York Giants fan, for as long as I've been a New York Giants fan, being an underdog is very familiar. And I think we'll take that role and move with it. But yeah, I don't know why they're sleeping. I could just say it's from a lack of information, and they're probably going over how we looked the past 10 years. That's what I'll say. They're not giving us our just due yet. So I'll leave it at that. Shout out to Danny G5836 for that question. All right, so next we have Big Blue for Life 589. Shout out to Big Blue for Life. All right, he says, who do you think is better, Banks or Trey? Wow. You don't want me to answer that. You really don't want me to answer that. No, right now I think Banks is better. I think Banks is better, even though Trey is having a better or what we think is a better training camp. I think it's because where he was drafted at and how he's come along that we think that Hawkins is going to be better, or you might think Hawkins is better than Banks. But I'm going to say right now today, if I'm picking somebody, it's going to be Banks over Trey Hawkins. I hate that you asked me that question, though. I hate it. I don't want to pick between those two. I don't want to pick between these Giants players like that, especially two good starters, who we believe are going to be two good starters, young starters, for years and years to come. All right, shout out to Big Blue for Life 589 for that one. James Hollister again with another question. He says, Javarius Owens, combine is similar to Jamal Adams. What do you think he can be? Now, when we first drafted Javarius Owens, I was like, who is this guy? Even though I watched tape on Tank Dell and he plays for Houston too, I really didn't pay attention to the defense too much. And Javarius Owens, when I saw the write-up, like you said, he was supposed to be like this physical thumper type of safety, and like similar to what Jamal Adams is. And then when you watch him in the mini camp, you watch him in training camp once he was able to get healthy, he's more than that. He's more than just a thumper. He has good eyes for a safety, and he trusts himself. So once he sees something happening, he is on it right away. And that's a skill set that really can't be taught. Those are instincts. So I think if he continues to mature, I think he does make the 53. And I think you'll have something with him, whether it be quality depth or maybe a potential starter at some point in time. But he will be definitely a special teams contributor right away. But I think the ceiling for Javarius Owens is high. It's high. He's just sitting behind a couple of guys that also have pretty high ceilings. And we'll see what happens with Javarius Owens. So hopefully that answers your question, James. And again, thank you again for the questions. All right, the next question comes from AZZT2. So I'm assuming as T2 is his name. He said, who would the offense focus around if Waller and Saquon got injured? Daniel Jones. That's it. It's going to be Daniel Jones and the sidekicks. That's what it will be. If you didn't have Waller, if you didn't have Saquon Barkley, it would be more Paris Campbell, Jalen Hyatt. It would be by committee, running back by committee, receiver by committee, and Daniel Jones would have to be the ultimate playmaker if it comes to a situation like that. Hopefully, we would never have to find out. Hopefully, we never have to find out, and hopefully Waller and Saquon are healthy for all 17 games, and we don't have to find out what happens. But I think if you take away those two guys, it's absolutely on Daniel Jones to carry this team, which I already believe he's carrying the team now. But it will absolutely be on the skill set of Daniel Jones and the back of Daniel Jones to carry this team if there's no Waller or Saquon. Okay, and then I think we're at the last question, and it's a good one. And this is from, it's either Arako or E-Rock-O, 1551 or 1551. He's saying, who is the most overrated player on the team? Wow. That's a good question. So first of all, there's not a lot of players that are highly thought of on this team. We, like, as Giants fans, we have some guys, but overrated. Okay, so hear me out. There are high expectations for what Kayvon Thibodeau can do, and I have those same high expectations. If I'm going off of the stat line alone, and even though his sacks, he only had 4 sacks last year, had a ton of pressures, had a ton of QB hits. If we're talking about where we expect Kayvon to be versus the results from last year, I'm going to say that Kayvon Thibodeau might be the most overrated player on the New York Giants. That hurts to say, man. Come on with the question. No, man, because it makes it seem terrible. I think Kayvon Thibodeau is going to be absolutely phenomenal this year. I think he takes the big step and he becomes the closer, like his nickname is. But as far as guys, I'm trying to think. There's not too many guys that are seen. So if we're talking about just national coverage, that's the only way you can be overrated or underrated. They talk about Dexter Lawrence. They talk about Saquon Barkley. You can't say those guys are overrated. You talk about Daniel Jones, but I believe Daniel Jones is underrated in there. And then you have Darren Waller. Darren Waller, to a lot of people too, he might also be the most overrated on the team because of the recent injury history and lack of stats the past 2 years. But he also can go right back to where he was in 2020, 2019, where he was the man when it came to tight ends. But yeah, I'll just stick with the original answer. I'll say Kayvon Thibodeau, but by default, because I absolutely believe he's worth all the hype. But right now, today, without all of the proof being on the field from last year, I'll say Kayvon Thibodeau. So that's the last question in the mailbag. And again, I want to thank everybody for submitting those questions. I had fun doing it. Absolutely had fun doing it. And I know since I don't stream and I don't get a chance to interact with you guys in real time, I think this is something that's pretty cool that we can do. And then hopefully, later I'll be able to, get out there and do some stream. That way I can have real time interactions with everybody here. I am on a bunch of other Giants content creators pages and videos and stuff like that where they do go live, and I see a lot of the people here that are also following those guys as well, and I see you guys in there, and shout out to y'all. But yeah, man, that's something I'll be working on. But this is really, really fun. I do appreciate everybody that submitted those questions. So without further ado, I want to thank everybody for vibing with me. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And from one Giants fan to another, this is BigDashKnows, Big Blue Nation. Let's go.